our 40 years of marriage. Sunday was our 40th anniversary. And so yesterday we talked about how important it is to have a common foundation, that you have a common worldview with which you approach life, and how important that is in establishing a good and healthy and lasting marriage. The second thing I want to talk about is expectations. Now, whether you know it or not, you are building the expectations of your marriage every day of your life. Even if you're not married right now, you are going through your life taking a snapshot of this moment and that moment and putting it together. And in that stained glass window of all of this collage is your understanding of marriage and your future. Now, I hope you went to a good premarital counseling, or if you're thinking about marriage, you'll go to a good premarital counseling that can help you kind of take apart what you have put in that. For instance, a young lady will go through her life and she'll take a picture of a moment when she thinks that's what love looks like. And it'll be pictures of maybe her grandfather, her father. It'll be a little Tom Cruise. It'll be a little of her favorite musician. It'll be a little bit of all of that into this collage. Now, the interesting thing is, she will get mad at her husband or boyfriend when he fails to live up to her expectation, regardless of whether he knows about it or not. She'll just find herself getting mad. Same way, the guy goes through, he puts his collage together where his fiancee wife matches that picture, he's delighted. Where she doesn't, he's frustrated. Now again, he probably doesn't even know himself. And one of the things you have to do is kind of nail down what you expect and what you need. And let's be honest, some of what we expect is totally outrageous, totally unrealistic. 3 people could not live up to our expectations. That's okay, as long as you have them out there, as long as you know that, and as long as you have communicated. These are unrealistic expectations, but man, given the world that I would want, this would be part of it. The other things in there are things you cannot live without. You have to have. This is the expectation. For instance, Jeannie always expected to be safe. That no matter what was going on in our lives, no matter what challenge we were facing, she would be safe and the boys would be safe. Now, what does that mean? That means I would be taking care of financial expectations. That means the boys would be healthy and have access to health care. That means the boys would be well fed and clothed, and all of those things taken care of. Now, as they grew and their needs grew, college and all of that, that was her expectations, that the boys would always have what they needed. Now, that was one of the things that she expected from me, and I understood that, and that was one of my expectations for myself. And one of the expectations I had for her is that for her, and she knows this, the boys, her care of the boys was the most important thing for me. And the prettiest picture I have of her in my mind that I always go to is her with one of the boys on her hip, her blonde hair next to his little blonde hair, and the two of them talking. I have all of those pictures in my head, and in that moment, I do not think Jeannie could be any more beautiful than she was holding one of my sons. Those are the pictures I have. We were able to finally, through some help of some really good counselors and premarital counseling and friends, be able to sit down and say, here's what I am expecting. Here's what I need from you. Here's what I want from you. Now, we're able to say, hey, I can do that. Now that I know it, I'm glad to do that. We were able to say some other things. Hey, I can't do that. Or I don't think that's a realistic expectation you're putting on me. And we were able to negotiate our expectations. But the problem that a lot of us have is we have these expectations, we just never name them. We never share them. We get mad at the other person when they don't meet our needs or guess our expectations, and we have never told them. You didn't marry a mind reader. How in the world is your husband going to understand this unless you tell him? How in the world is your wife going to understand this unless you tell her? Now, there are things that you can do. You can sit down at a table and say, listen, given a perfect world, what does that perfect world look like? What are the times when you know that I most love you? How does your spouse receive the message of love? For Jeannie, it's acts of service, which means you have to do something before Jeannie sees my love for her. What does that mean? Here's what it means. I can say I love you all day long, but if the garbage isn't emptied, she wants to know why the garbage isn't emptied. If I loved her, then I would know to take care of that. See? Now, once I understood that, then I was fine. But I had been living up to my expectations. See, what I thought I wanted was the same thing that I thought Jeannie would want. And Jeannie's really different from me. And so she has different expectations. So what are your expectations of this marriage? Take some time and sit down together and say, this is what I expect. When your expectations are met, then you'll be pretty happy. You may need to change some of those expectations. And if the other person can't change behavior, then change your expectations. It's the way that you'll be together for a very long time if you understand the other person's expectations. I'll give you about 60 seconds to think about it, and I'll see you tomorrow.